peril in using social media is that we seek out opinions that validate and reaffirm our own opinions, and therefore we're not exposed to other opinions. The exposure to other opinions and other viewpoints is what helps us improve our own. It's a painful process, but it's a necessary process, and it's a necessary process that social media stands in the way of, or at least in its current iteration.
Yeah, for somebody to live in their own echo chamber is fine, but to be forced to live in that is not. And the current circumstances with the information that we are allowed to see is extraordinarily biased and not allowing secondary opinions. That is where we get into section 230 in a minute. But basically, let's just say you're the average person and you go to work, you have a family. You don't have too much time to decipher through all medias and look for alternative platforms to get real concrete data. So you take everything that you hear at face value. Why wouldn't you? You hear it everywhere. If you go on any media app, if you listen to any news, they are all going to reiterate the same thing from the same viewpoint. And always saying that the other viewpoint is wrong and they don't consider it at all. Why would you even let any thoughts wander that way if you're just a person without much time, or if you just take them at face value? That is what you should do. So this is where we get into the complexities, the hardship of where we are. Justin,
Yep.
what is 230 and how can we potentially get to a place where all opinions are valued and considered?
Absolutely. So before we get to 230, one other thing I want to kind of point out to that. What porn does to libido, social media does to one's desire for truth. Both are equally destructive and both need to be looked at with great suspicion. Anyways, Section 230. Here's the TLDR in it. Do research on your own. It is the legal mechanism that gives platforms immunity from content that's posted on their network. This is different from a publisher, where a publisher cannot claim Section 230 immunity. This is the takeaway point. As long as you're just putting up whatever the user is putting up with like zero review, zero moderation, zero censorship, save for maybe the most extreme cases that you have to do for by law, you in this case being the Facebooks, the Twitters, whatever, have immunity from the content that's posted on your network. This would be different from, let's say, the CNNs, the Fox Newses, the Washington Posts, the NYT, whatever, right? Where they are publishers, they do not enjoy it. Anyways, it's the legal mechanism that gives the social media companies a great deal of immunity. And actually, you can also make a very good argument that it needs to be updated, but it serves its role very well because this is actually what enables free speech. The problem is that like the social media companies, there is an argument to be made that they are not acting in the best of faith. I'm not going to say they're acting in direct bad faith. More on Elon's buy-in in a second because I think Elon sees the same problem, but I can't read his mind. But anyways, we'll get to that in just a second. But the point though is that if the social media, if the Facebooks, if the Twitters, whatever, if they want to say, hey, listen, we're just a platform. We are not trying to curate. We're not trying to review anything. I mean, like, yeah, we'll take down illegal content, but beyond that, like, no, we don't want to do it. Okay, that's fine. You can do that, but you can't do the shadow banning. You can't do the shadow moderation. You can't do that. Or if you do want to do that, that's fine too, but you can't claim Section 230 immunity. See, right now, these guys are trying to have their cake and eat it too. And if you want to see like the power of this, Josh, I mean, look back to the 2020 election. So right now it's coming back into the news is the Hunter Biden laptop. It was a story that came up prior or during the run-up to the 2020 election, was buried. Nobody talked about it. Now it's just resurfacing. I would argue that if you have the power to, and this gets back to the social media thing, if you have the power to like manage the echo chamber and enforce the echo chamber, whether it's social media, whether it's the prestige press or whatever, right, you can constantly bombard people into like mental submission in a sense of trying to present a narrative. Again, shout out to Metal Gear Solid 2. This is the final codec transmission. Don't need to go over it now, but people retreating into their own little pools, too afraid to venture out. Social media in its current iteration and without any other constraints or with anything to check it, is the enabler of this. Again, my argument, what porn does to libido, social media, confirmation bias does to one's desire for truth.
And this is fine. They're private companies. They can do what they want. The problem
Yep.
arises when you have a monopoly over the
Mhm.
information. And,
Yeah.
and,
Oh,
and
and the monopoly is a critical service. The need to have like a town platform, like that goes beyond the private company. This is something we as society need. That's the catch.
And great, if you want to censor child porn and horrible, disgusting things off the internet, fine. But to change the narrative and to reject other opinions, because what is the essence of free speech? I believe this, Justin's believes that, and we can clash ideas and let the truth prevail, but that is not happening. One side is the consensus monster, and that is truth, and everything else is a lie. Therefore, lies cannot be surfaced on the internet, and no other opinions are allowed. So, this is where NPCs are formulated. If you only see one opinion all day and you're told to reject all others, why wouldn't you? If you don't have the time, like me and Justin doesn't really work. I work in the field doing this. So, if you don't have the need and the desire to know more, why would you accept anything but the consensus monster? It makes sense.
Yeah, and it's sad, and like hat tip to Elon, hat tip for Elon for taking this
Oh,
on.
yeah,
Like I certainly hope he does
this
it.
is a fight and a win for freedom because he's a massive free speech maximist. No matter what you think of the guy, free speech is going to benefit everybody except the people who rely upon the consensus monster.
Yeah. Oh no, no. So here's who it's not going to benefit, at least not up front, right? You see, here's the thing: like truth and lies, it's like light and darkness. You know, the darkness will always flee the light, and so if you just light a match in a dark room or whatever, you see this burst of light. You know, the darkness will flee from it. It's the same thing with lies and truth. This is why lies, or the people who promote lies as virtue or as truth, always have to censor, because the lies they have can't stand up to critical thought and critical reasoning. So how do you get around that? You just simply ban anyone that dares to speak the truth as hate speech, bullying, whatever, right? And that's how you're able to protect, you know, for the greater good, the people who are addicted to the lie. Anyways, you know, this is a huge rant. You don't need to hear me say it. But what I would say is this too, just as a conceptual point. Suppose, let's say there was like, you know, I don't know, like aliens come down from the sky, or like some sci-fi bizarre thing happens, whatever, right? Let's just say like social media was kicked offline for 10 days. Like I just say 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks. Okay, let's just say social media was kicked off for 2 days. So like the power still came on. I mean, like it's not like you're like living without your AC or your heat, just to be clear, but you just couldn't log on to social media for 2 weeks. I would be really, really curious to see what would happen, because when I would hope that if social media is a drug that's like suppressing, you know, that one's ability to think, and if one suppresses their ability to think, that's the genesis of an NPC right there. But if you were to turn off the drug for at least a material amount of time, I wonder if the mind would begin to heal, or at least I like to think it would
Yeah,
begin
just
to
like
heal.
in Brave New World, when you are told to shovel down drugs all day, but when one person stands up and doesn't take them, they start to see things on to how they are.
Yeah,
If we see a scenario where news headlines start to spread news and information instead of opinions that are one-sided, that is the importance. Who cares what somebody's opinion it is the ability to stand up to those opinions, and that is what we don't have. Even on YouTube, we are
yeah.
forced to censor ourselves. I mean, we open up a locals page, haven't posted on it, but I'll throw the link in the description. If we have topics that we physically can't talk about, or we'll get the boot off the app, and we don't have a big enough platform to revive it if we were kicked off.
Yeah. And like I said, it's only a matter of time before they come for the Kevin Samuels, the George Gammons, the Scott Adams. For us, it is just only a matter of time.
Yeah, Justin, any last thoughts?
No, no, I just say again, like if we could stop the poison, I suspect many people would start to heal. Not everyone, of course, but hopefully the majority of people. That
And
gives me
that,
hope.
that is the essence of cracking the armor, the ability
Yeah.
for all thoughts to be exchanged. If anybody has counter opinions to ours, we would love to have them on and express them against us. And that is a friendly debate. What happened to two parties being able to discuss things in a civilized manner that has completely gone out the window? So we would like
Yeah.
to bring that back to anybody who would like to debate us on any subject.
Absolutely.
Thanks, guys, and we will see you on the next one.
Take care.